Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Natea and this is Nesthetics, where I talk about topics that I care about and you should care about too if you choose. Today we are discussing the Netflix series High on the Hog. Today I'm going to be reviewing and discussing my thoughts on the 4-part series. The series has 4 episodes, so it ranges from 45 minutes to an hour long for each episode. If you haven't seen this series yet, I highly recommend it. It's very educational. Today I'm going to be discussing my main takeaways from each episode and just the entire series overall. And if you haven't seen it yet, don't worry, I won't be giving too many spoilers, but I will be talking about some of the things that I saw in the series and that stood out to me. So let's hop right into episode 1. So all of the episodes tell a story and the episodes go in chronological order. So the series is about how the history of African Americans and how we shaped American cuisine. So of course the first episode, which is titled Our Roots, it starts in Benin, West Africa. And I really enjoyed this episode because it reminded me so much of when I visited Senegal, which is also in West Africa. And in this episode, they show how so many of our foods that are a part of Black cuisine like okra, yams, black eyed peas, they're all from Africa. And basically enslaved Africans, they brought their cuisine with them to the Americas, and that's how Black cuisine, African American cuisine, is shaped today. So I really liked how they started off in Benin and gave us that history. One thing that I was unaware of is that Benin is a slave coast, meaning that it's one of the places where the transatlantic slave trade. It's one of the places where Europeans and other folks, they came and took Africans and enslaved them and took them to the Americas. So Benin is a slave coast. Ghana is another popular slave coast that many people know, in Senegal, which I have been to before. And they're all in West Africa. And in this episode, they went to this city called Ouida and they visited the door of no return. And I didn't know that there was a door of no return in Ouida, because when I went to Senegal, I saw the door of no return in Senegal. So basically the door of no return is it's like the name of the door. So it's like a door where the enslaved Africans, they would go through and then they would get on the ship, the boat, to get transported to the Americas, and basically, they would never return back home. That was the last time that they were able to see their home, Africa. And I'll insert a picture, of course, of when I went to Senegal and I saw the door of no return there. And it's very surreal because when you look out the door, you see the Atlantic Ocean. And I just can't imagine how the enslaved Africans felt looking out that door and not knowing that they would never be able to return to their home. So one thing that I really liked when I went to Senegal is that when you do go to the door of no return, they say welcome home, because it's the door of no return because the enslaved Africans never were able to come back, but we are our ancestors. We are a product of our ancestors, and we are the next generation and generations down. So it's like we were able to come back home for them. And I really appreciated this series for inserting that and showing us the city Ouida in Benin and showing us that door no return. It's definitely very emotional. The scene in the series and also just in real life, it's very emotional. And knowing all that happened once they left their homes and that journey and the journey that we're still on to freedom now. So I really appreciate this episode for showing us that and teaching us that and incorporating that history into the history of African American cuisine. Now moving on to episode 2. Episode 2 is titled The Rice Kingdom. So episode 2 is set in South Carolina and episode 1 was set in Benin, West Africa. So each episode is set in a different city, country, etc. In this episode, they talk about the meaning of soul food and the meaning of the phrase high on the hog. So I really liked what one of the men said in this episode about what the meaning of soul food is, and I'm going to read it. We are the only people that named our food after something invisible like love and God. It's a connection between us and the dead and the people waiting to be born. So I never thought of soul food like that. I never thought of soul food connecting our ancestors and the next generations and just connecting us all together, and like soul food, of course, because the soul is like, in my mind, I believe that the soul is eternal. So it's like all of our ancestors and then people that are coming after us and then us in present day, we're all connected through this food in a way. And it's like enslaved Africans, they brought their culture and their food with them, and it's like it was a way to stay connected to those that they weren't able to ever see again back in Africa, and also to the next generation that they didn't know like what would happen to them. So I really like how he broke down and defined soul food, because I never thought of soul food that way. And then the phrase high on the hog, it's so how they explained it in the series is that how enslaved Africans would kill hogs for their masters, but their masters only gave enslaved Africans the most undesirable parts of the hog. So just like I talked about in one of my past videos about the boondocks and the itis, and I was talking about soul food. So that's how it was during that time, where they would give the enslaved Africans, they would give them the most undesirable parts of the meat of the animal and have them have that. But one thing I learned in this series is that it wasn't slavery that started Africans and African Americans eating the most undesirable parts of meats. So in this series, it brought light to how Africans, they always ate all parts of the meats, regardless if it was the undesirable parts or the most desirable parts. They always ate all parts of the meat in West Africa. So it's like it was nothing new to them. That's something that I didn't know before, like making my last video about soul food in the Boondocks episode. And it's like I had like an epiphany, like a moment, just like realizing that I have seen that I have seen Africans use all parts of the meat. For example, the second time that I went to Senegal, I was there during this Islamic holiday called Tabaski. So Tabaski is an Islamic holiday that honors the willingness of Abraham to sacrifice his son as an act of obedience to God's command. And before Abraham could sacrifice his son, God provided a lamb to sacrifice instead. So I know the story growing up Christian and knowing the story from the Bible. So, but this is an Islamic holiday. It's not a Christian holiday, because Senegal is 95% Muslim. And so basically, they celebrate this holiday by like literally going to get a lamb, and then they kill it, and then we all cook it and we eat it. And I will insert some clips and maybe videos that I find or pictures of me from that day. That was a really interesting day, and being able to like celebrate that holiday. Like when the holiday is around, that holiday, you see so many lambs like in the street, because everybody's trying to get their lamb so that they can slay the lamb and they can eat it for Tabaski. And the men, they usually go out and they slay the lamb, they slit the throat and all of that. But basically what I'm saying is that I helped cook some of the lamb, and they cooked the liver of the lamb, and they were like, yeah, try the liver, and it was so nasty. But y'all, it was like a whole like dead lamb just sitting in the kitchen. And when I tell y'all they cooked every part of that lamb, and you have lamb for days. So, but also like if there's people that are homeless or they're less fortunate, many people, they go out and give lamb to those people so that they can eat. So it's not like they just, because usually a lot of people come over for Tabaski family and things like that. So a lot of people do end up eating the lamb, but any leftovers and stuff, it goes to the less fortunate. But I didn't realize that I had seen how West Africans do use every part of the animal. to eat. It's normal, and I didn't realize that I had already seen that. But that was very interesting, and it kind of makes me rethink about what I said in my last video with the boondocks and the itis, because I always thought that this practice derived from slavery, but it was really something that we always did. We always cooked all parts of the meat, whether they were undesirable or not, because black folks don't waste no food, period. So I guess that's just how we are as a people. But moving on to the rest of this episode 2, another thing that I found interesting is that they were in South Carolina, and a lot of the restaurants that celebrate like Southern cuisine and they have really good Southern food, they are all white owned and not black owned. And they talked about how in the Southern states, there's not a lot of black owned restaurants that have Southern food, yet this food is inspired and was heavily influenced by enslaved Africans that came to this country. So it's like white people always fail to recognize our contributions, and it's like white people are just sitting up here eating this good Southern food, and they don't even care about the black people who influenced it. And there's no black owned restaurant that, like, I just can't wrap that around my head, how white people like don't even acknowledge that we influence so much of the culture and influence so much of the food that y'all are literally sitting here eating, and y'all don't acknowledge us for that. Like, it doesn't ever sit right with me, whether it's food or whether it's anything in our culture that white people don't like to acknowledge us for, and they like to take credit for everything. So it's like the lack of black owned restaurants to me shows that white people, y'all really don't care, and like y'all don't want to acknowledge that our contributions to this cuisine that y'all love is something that y'all should acknowledge, but y'all don't. But yeah, I think it's so interesting how black people influence everything, yet we are so underappreciated. We are, yeah, we just get no credit for, we don't ever get the credit that we deserve. And I don't know if white people will ever give us our credit. It's not that we need that recognition or that validation from white people. It's just that it's annoying. Like we should not always have things stolen from us all the time. Like, it's just mad annoying. It's mad annoying. So moving on to episodes 3 and 4, I'm going to put them together. So episode 3 is titled Our Founding Chef, and it is set in Philadelphia. And in this episode, they talk about the 2 black chefs who cooked for the founding fathers, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. And they popularized a lot of foods in American cuisine that are popular now, which are like French fries, ice cream, mac and cheese, things like that. And I found that interesting how like we have influenced not just Southern food, but also American cuisine and American food. So it's not, where African Americans' influence on cuisine is not limited to our soul food. We influence that American food. We influence that mac and cheese. You eat it. We influence the French fries that y'all love. Like, I don't know. It's so interesting. So I really recognize that our contributions are not limited to just soul food. So that's what I really liked about episode 3. And then episode 4, which was titled Freedom, it was set in Texas, and they really highlighted Juneteenth. And they talked more so about how black folks influence barbecue. And I think they said the earliest barbecue in Texas was from enslaved Africans. So we influence barbecue as well. And y'all already know, for holidays, uncles be on the grill, cooking, fathers be on the grill, etc. For any holiday, even if we not really celebrating it like that, like the 4th, we still gonna be on the grill eating. regardless. So I find it interesting how, because like in Texas, like barbecue is really big. So, and a lot of other, places too. But it's like black people literally influence that as well. And we continue to keep those traditions on of barbecuing and all of that. So that's episodes 3 and 4. And I just find it interesting how like this series highlighted how we literally influence every aspect of American cuisine, whether it's barbecue, it's soul food, it's traditional American cuisine, mac and cheese and ice cream and all of that. I find that so interesting. And like, I would have never known that we influenced so much more than soul food before watching this series. So it's very educational. As I said, I wasn't giving too many spoilers, but that was my main takeaways from all of the episodes. And another takeaway that I had was that there is a deep connection between black folks, spirituality, and food. Because in every episode, there was some type of religious ceremony, spirituality or church involved. Because like in the first episode, when they were in Benin, they talked about voodoo because voodoo actually derived or it originated there. And I know a lot of people like have a negative connotation about voodoo, but voodoo actually isn't as bad as people, or it's not bad at all. Like, I feel like the negative connotation comes from white folks and all of that, but like voodoo is not actually bad. Like, it's a spiritual or religious practice, just like any other practice. And also, this is off topic, but hoodoo is very interesting as well. So if you are interested in other religious practices or just curious, voodoo and hoodoo are very interesting practices. But voodoo basically originated in Benin, and there they would get together, eat, and then they would also, have ceremonies, religious ceremonies, things like that. And then also in some of the further episodes, there was like a church, like a Baptist church, connected to a barbecue spot, and it was black owned. And sometimes, like after church, like people would come and eat. So I just find it very interesting how food and spirituality has always been connected with black people. And I just find that interesting because it always seemed like black people have always had faith in something, whether it's Christianity, whether it's voodoo, hoodoo, whether it's whatever. And I think that because of our struggle, I think that we've always been connected to something higher than us to give us hope. And also, I feel like there's also the connection with the food because of like soul food. So it's like connecting, people and ancestors, all of us together. I don't know. I'm trying to like wrap my head around it, but there's a deeper meaning to all of this. Basically, is what I'm saying. There's a deeper meaning to why the food, the people, and the spirituality is all connected together. And I just find that interesting that black people have always come together in community over food. And I think that's a good thing, over food and over spirituality. So that is the conclusion of this video. Thank y'all for watching and listening today. Check out the Netflix series High on the Hog if you haven't already. I 10 out of 10 recommend. And I will see y'all in my next video. Bye.